Caregivers, have you ever felt like nothing? I mean, nothing is going right? Well, cheer up and welcome to Dave the Caregiver's Caregiver radio program, where you'll learn how to avoid that dreaded thing called caregiver burnout and how to survive the grief process. You know, with roughly 100 million caregivers in the U.S. and Canada alone, that's about a third of the population. That means that everyone probably knows someone caring for a loved one. Join Dave and his guests now and every Wednesday at noon Pacific Time as they discuss avoiding caregiver burnout and surviving grief. So find a comfortable place to relax, kick up your feet, and prepare to feel better and to receive practical tips and tools that you can start using immediately to get you through today and every day so you can survive your tomorrows. But not just survive, but to live life fully and abundantly. Yes, you heard me right. That is a possible goal to achieve. And now, here's your host, Dave Nassaney. From Los Angeles to Big LA, welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I'm Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver, coming to you live globally on many talk show and blog talk and Mixcloud and Stitcher and YouTube and iTunes and Listen Notes and Blueberry, and there's just too many to mention, so I'm just going to stop right there. All our recorded podcasts are saved for your later on-demand listening pleasure, including, of course, our website, caregiverscaregiver.com. And if that's too hard to remember, try davethecaregiver.com. I just thought of that lately, and it was available. And we even have a new one, dave.care, if you can figure that one out. All these new domain names are really cool. So our goal here is to do our very best to help you avoid that dreaded thing called caregiver burnout. And we have a very exciting show planned for you today. I am unusually excited. Unfortunately, my co-host Adrienne was feeling a little under the weather today. You know, she's still recovering from her knee surgery. So we'll just have to wish you well, Adrienne. Hope you feel better next week. Now, today's guest, the author of Tao of the See, I messed that up. The author of Tao of the Defiant Woman, 5 Brazen Ways to Accept What You Must and Rebel Against the Rest. I like that. And its subsequent book for teen and preteen girls, Tao Girls Rule, Finding Balance, Staying Strong, Being Bold in a World of Challenges. Did I tell you? You will not want to miss this show. I'm your host, Dave Nassaney, as I said, and this show is caregivers of every single kind. The one thing we know about caregivers is that they are caring and selfless and sacrificial, and they have this tiny little problem that they're very prone to burnout because they tend to put everyone else's needs above their own. And that's why 30% actually die before their loved ones do, and 60% become hospitalized needing a caregiver of their own. Is that sad or what? Now, we can learn something from the airlines. They tell us in the event of an emergency, put your oxygen mask on first before you help your loved one with their mask. Hello? What an amazing metaphor for all of life. Take care of you first. Not out of selfishness, but out of survival. We also talk about grief and loss here and the devastating effects it can have on us. Anytime we suffer a loss, we go through a grief process. It could take days or weeks or months or years. Believe it or not, I know people who just seem like they're never going to get over it. And that's not a good thing. So if you feel like you're ready to move on with your grief, you're in the right place. Now, unfortunately, there's one way out of the grief process. You got to go through the grief process. There's no shortcuts. Can't go around it or over it or under it or trick it. Sorry, I just report the facts. So hopefully we can help you through your grief and your loss if, like I said, if you feel like you're stuck and you're ready to move on with life. Hey, I want to take this time to thank my last week's guest. And just a reminder that you can listen to that interview and all of our interviews right on our website, caregiverscaregiver.com or dave.care. Just an update on me. We're getting ready in about a week now to go to New York, and we've selected 49 national producers on the list who are kind of geared toward us, and the top 10 are the really big ones that we're really hoping accept us, you know, like Dr. Oz and you know, Good Morning America and the Today Show and People Magazine and TEDx and just all sorts. So keep us in your prayers. I'm going to have my beautiful wife with me, which is the best prop I can have because she just lightens up the room. and she just makes me look good. So I just don't know how they can say no to her. Now, these national shows are harder to get on because they have the ability to just pick up the phone and bring on any movie star they want. Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, you name it. But I got a star of my own, and her name is Charlene. So I think it's going to be fine. God has brought us this far, and he's going to take us all the way. So, but enough of me. All right. Welcome to my big guest, CJ Golden. Welcome to the show, CJ. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. God, yeah, the excitement is like, it's just coming right through the screen.
I know, it just oozes out of my
Oh,
pores, and
oozing,
I
oozing.
guess that's why they keep putting me on television, because I'm entertaining and
Yes,
educational. And you got to be
yes.
both, because if you're one without the other, you're boring. If you're one without the other, you're just, bouncing off the walls, not saying anything.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
why don't you take a minute or two? I like to have my guests introduce themselves. I like to just ask you, like, who is CJ Golden and why was she put on this earth? There's a heavy one for you.
That's heavy and that's interesting, and I'm ready with an answer for that.
Go.
Years ago, there was a movie. Oh my goodness, Meryl Streep and Charles something, and it was Defending Your Life.
I love that movie.
I loved that movie, and it taught me, folks who don't know it, um, ultimately, Charles Grodin discovers why he is on this earth. And I thought about that. And it was, so why am I here? What am I doing? I have my children, they have their children. I've come to realize that for some reason, I've been given the ability to motivate, to find the positive in life's
Right.
experiences, as with my women's and my girls' books, and now with my new book that details my job as caregiver to my husband 2 years ago when he had cancer-induced strokes, and we didn't think he was going to make it. That book, if I can plug it,
Wow.
is
Of
one
course.
petal at a time.
One what?
One petal at a time, because Joe is a long distance cyclist. And I once asked him,
Ah,
how do you do this? How do you get across the country on your bicycle? And he said, one pedal at a time.
I'm a
And it's
bicyclist
a
also. I can relate.
well, there you go. And it's a novice caregiver and her cyclist husband face their new normal with courage,
Wow.
tenacity, and abundant love. And I took those things, those principles that I learned in writing my two other books, and parlayed them into what I could do to be the best caregiver I was capable of being for Joe. Um,
Really?
and now with the book out there, and now with my speaking engagements, I know that I'm here to do what I can on this earth to help others get through. And
Awesome.
if that sounds Pollyanna, sorry, but that's what I believe.
Caregivers can use a lot more Pollyanna, if you ask me.
Yeah,
They don't
yeah.
have enough, just too much reality.
Well,
So,
that's it.
so you have a saying, caregiver soothe thyself. What does that mean?
Oh, it's basically what you had said. Put your mask on first. It's something that I was told over and over and over again ad nauseum by friends and counselors when I was caring for Joe. When he was so direly ill, I wouldn't leave his side, because even if I left the bedside and took a walk outside around the hospital, I felt I was abandoning him.
Really?
Well, yeah, but then a friend said, CJ, to abandon him would mean going off to Lake Como with George Clooney. Walking
You didn't do
outside
you
around
didn't
the
do
block
that?
is not. I thought about it.
You can
But
think
he's
about
married, he has kids, he's too young for me. Um,
it.
Soothe thyself is first and primo, because if you don't care for yourself, and we've all heard this, then you can't care for the person you love.
Man.
It's not that we don't want to care for ourselves. It's How the heck do we do this?
That's right. The Bible says, treat your neighbor as you treat yourself. Okay, well, a lot of people don't treat themselves very good, so how are they going to treat their neighbor good?
Bingo, bingo. We don't care for ourselves. When I work with teen girls, well, and women and whomever, and I'll say, well, here's the situation. You're in school. Your best friend just failed a big math test, and it might mean that she'll mess up her ACTs, and she might not be able to apply to the colleges she wants to get to. And what do you say to your best friend? And the teenager will say soothing words to her best friend.
Uh-huh.
I said, now turn it around, and if you did it yourself, what would you say to yourself? And she'd be kicking herself in the head. We, we need to be as kind to ourselves as we are to others.
Yes, we do.
Well, the thing is, if we're not worthy of kindness, that people see that.
And
Yes.
it's so funny. Every month is a month for something under the sun. And I did not know that April is, among other things, Stress Awareness Month.
Yes.
And we can certainly discuss, recognizing the signs of stress and ways to, what's that word?
What, ameliorate the stress?
That's the word,
How do you
yes.
like that for a big word? Anyone
We're,
who thinks I don't know a multisyllabic word, that's it.
so what does that word mean, by the way?
To ameliorate is to lessen it, to find ways to make it not as important, as big, as heavy.
In
Um,
other, in other
you
words,
don't
chill out.
really, it means chill. It means chill. Exactly. But
Okay.
chill only has one syllable, and I'm a writer, so I should know a lot of syllables.
So give us some ways to chill out as a caregiver who's freaking out.
Beside coming home from the hospital and drinking all the wine in the house,
Wine,
um,
wine helps a lot.
wine helps a lot. Chilling out means to allow yourself to understand that there is stress, to not pretend there is not stress. When people say, be strong, I believe, I believe those people mean toughen up and don't cry and forge ahead. Well, being strong to me is allowing yourself to feel the feelings that are natural, to let them out. Perhaps call a close friend. Perhaps cuddle with your teddy bear and then pull yourself together and forge ahead again. Being strong, I thought it meant I couldn't let go until one day when Joe was in the hospital in Boston at the time. I'm in Connecticut. I mean, I was in Boston with him. So I was in his hospital room all the time. But I went out to CVS to get a script. And when I went, the pharmacy was closed.
Really?
Well, all of that being strong had built up in me. I erupted in the middle of that CVS like Mount Vesuvius.
Hmm.
I was not a nice person and it was not a pretty sight. And I should have been able to let it out little bits at a time when I needed to. That's chill. Truly, it doesn't mean in the case of being a caregiver and worrying about someone you love, it doesn't mean it's saying that it's okay, it'll be fine. It's not that kind of chill. It can't be.
So that's a good thing to just keep in our minds, just don't freak out, chill out. So,
Exactly.
so May is Family Support Month,
Mm-hmm.
which is a great month for caregivers
It's
because we are supporting our family, and there's
yeah,
no more important support we can give than to our loved ones than to be their
exactly.
caregivers. But talk about that a little. How can we support our loved ones even more than we are?
Oh, I'm losing your sound, so I'm not sure what you
Oh,
asked.
really? Well, can you hear me now?
Oh,
Can you hear me now? Hello, hello, hello?
your
No, you
sound
can't
is
hear me?
gone.
Really?
There it is.
Okay.
What you asked is you talk about
So
being
let
a
me see.
caregiver.
So May is Family Support Month.
Yeah,
Now I'm hearing a background, so
I'm not.
hopefully. May is Family Support Month, so there are no more important ways to support. Wait, let me say that over again. So what I want to edit that out. So it's 114. Okay. So May is Family Support Month, which is a great month for caregivers, obviously, because we are supporting our family. And there's no more important support we can give to our loved ones than to be their caregivers. So why don't you just explain how we can be more of a support to our loved ones, even though we're a pretty good support, we can always do better, right? Without hurting ourselves. There was a book that says, when helping you hurts me, and we don't want to cross that line.
Yeah, no, you can't cross that line because then, well, then your loved one ends up having to support you.
Yep,
Yeah, it's not pretty.
it's over.
Um, I do believe that in the supporting of the person you love,
Uh-huh.
particularly as a caregiver, you need to remember that this is still the person who he or she was prior to the illness.
That's good
This
to
is
know.
still your spouse, your lover, your partner, your mother, your child, albeit with different, possibly lesser abilities in different areas. But you can't treat him or her like a different person. This, ergo, you need to give them the ability to share in their support and caregiving. It's one thing to make decisions because you have to. There are medical decisions that have to be made sometimes in the spur of the moment. Include that person. Even if it's something, as I was talking to somebody yesterday who helped her mother with Alzheimer's, who made sure that her mother had choices to make. Mom, do you want orange juice or apple juice? Something as simple as that.
Yeah.
Something as simple as just letting them know they're still people, they're still cherished. You are still, what's the word? Cherishing them. You respect them. You need to
Right.
keep the self-respect going.
Well, that's awesome. You know who you look like? You look like Shirley MacLaine. I was trying to think of.
Oh, I was told that. Yeah, I'm waiting. Actually, I'm waiting. I am an actor, and I'm waiting for Betty
The
White
Shirley MacLaine
to
movie, huh?
retire. Pardon?
The Shirley MacLaine movie, you can do it.
Yeah, that's it exactly. I figure when Betty
Listen,
White retires.
let's take a short break and
Okay.
we'll be right back and don't go away. Dave Nassaney, the Caregiver's Caregiver, has just released his sixth book entitled It's My Life Too. Reclaim your caregiver sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. It was specifically written for caregivers who know they should be putting their needs first, but just don't know how. Dave is the sole caregiver to his wife, Charlene, since 1996. He knows firsthand what caregivers are going through, because he is one. And he now speaks all across the country, offering caregivers his incredible caregiver support package. Even the airlines tell us that in the event of an emergency, to put your oxygen mask on first, before you help your child with their mask. They know that those who don't heed their advice often black out, thus becoming unable to help either themselves or their child. And caregivers are exactly the same way. It's My Life Too. Reclaim your caregiver sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. Will help caregivers who are neglecting their sleep, diet, and social life, and learn to put their needs first. Pick up your copy today, or buy one for your special caregiver. On sale everywhere, and at caregiverscaregiver.com. And we're back with CJ Golden and me, Dave Nassaney, and we're talking about caregivers, of course. And let's go on to the next topic. Hospital 101, shadowing medical staff.
Yeah.
Asking the right questions, get the right answers that will help you get the most effective care for a loved one. That is so challenging, hospitals, because doctors and nurses and the whole administrators and insurance people can all be so intimidating that
Mm-hmm.
the average caregiver, who's kind of on the timid side, just kind of curls up and that's why my wife had a stroke, because they didn't really share with me and make me part of the decision-making process. They just made decisions on their own, and decided to, be extra cautious in their care, determining whether it's a clot or a bleed. She had a stroke. And, the odds are, after looking at it and had another neurologist looking at it, he says, you know what, he was way too conservative. I would have brought the patient's spouse in because they're the ones who are going to have to live, decades and decades with the decision. Some things are worse than death. And so to just cover your butt for protection against lawsuits is not necessarily the right way to make a decision on your care. So what do you say?
Well, unfortunately, that's what's happening or happened to our caregiving now. The medical community does have to cover their butts, and therefore some decisions, I'm sure, as you're saying, are made with more caution than, I don't want to say than necessary, but than used to be.
Well,
But
gambling,
mm,
we should I should be able to decide how much risk I'm willing to take a gamble. If you have stage 4 cancer and a medication hasn't yet been approved yet because, there's a high risk that it may not work or it may kill you, but you know what, you're dying anyway. I'm willing to take the risk, and you should be able to make that decision on your own, not have some administrator decide, well, no, we're not going to put this on the market because we're afraid of lawsuits. It may kill you.
yeah,
Come on.
it's
Really?
that's where we're at. But even within the realm of the hospital, within the hospital room, I remember walking from the room. I did leave. I left long enough to go to the cafe and get coffee. Oh, I needed coffee. And I came across a woman who looked totally befuddled. That's a great word. Confused. And I had a conversation with her. She had no idea what was being done to her husband, not with, but to her husband. Not quite sure why he was there, not quite sure what the treatment was going to be, not quite sure what the doctors were talking about. And I looked at her and gently, I promise I was gentle, I suggested that she try to learn what's going on because she was creating such excessive and unnecessary stress for herself. I found the nurses that were willing to let me follow them, that were willing to let me shadow them, that were willing to let me say, why is that beeping? I found the doctors who were willing to show me, to teach me what was going on. They are there, not all of them, and you need to know to whom you can reach out. When you talk about making decisions, Joe was totally out of it, and I was told he needed a brain biopsy. Of course I spoke to the doctors, but of course I spoke to other people in the field. Of course I spoke to family medicine, people, physicians in our family. I gleaned as much information as I could to make the decision to go ahead with that. Happened to be on my birthday. The best birthday gift I ever got was that he made it through. And it's funny because when I wrote the book and Joe was reading it and said, I had a brain biopsy? Wasn't that dangerous? Yeah, I couldn't ask him. We need to educate ourselves, and we need to educate ourselves very quickly. But we also need to remember that we don't know as much as the medical staff does.
Yeah. And then transitioning from the hospital to home is a whole nother big deal,
Big deal.
You have to do, many times they'll just come out to say, well, can we see your house to see if it's safe for this person? Do you have guardrails? Do you have grab bars in the bathroom? Do you have ramps for the stairs, and so on and so on? So I understand you have 5 tips to make the transition from hospital to home a little easier. Why don't you talk about that for a moment?
Do I? I have 5 tips. Well, okay. I'm sorry.
Or 6. I don't know.
Or maybe 3. Number 1, yes. You need to know that your home is safe, is a safe place for your loved one. You need to allow that occupational therapist and the physical therapist to come in and make suggestions and then do the job that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fortunate. I'm very fortunate. I was able to call in a guy that I know who does handiwork for us, and he put in guardrails. I was able to call in a local medical center, medical supply store, who built ramps for us. Not everyone can do that. I recognize that. And therefore, at the back of the book, I put resources, places one can go, not only for emotional support, but financial support as well.
Right.
If I could not have brought Joe home, I would have had to let him go to a facility, a step-down facility, which I knew would have been awful, awful, awful for him. I had to know that I was capable of caring for him. I had to learn about the feeding tube. I had to learn about the catheter, Foley catheter.
Wow, you did all that, huh?
I did all that. I had,
Wow, not many people can.
well, I had, you know what? I had to. Um, and the nurses that
Where
came in,
there's a will, there's a way.
bingo, bingo. Taoism, by the way, one of the principles of Taoism is Te, Te, and it says we are all unique in our abilities. And I had to recognize what abilities I had and put them to use. And the abilities that I don't have, like I didn't sing to Joe, the abilities that I don't have, I had to turn to others for help. So yes, you need to be prepared. You need to listen to those. You need to be ready to and willing to ask for help. You need to be willing to put in, wow, the time and energy
Yeah.
that go into helping a person. But, when you are home and you are stuck in your home caring for your loved one, you need to find the time, here it goes again, even if it's 5 minutes, to stop, to breathe, do yoga, eat 17 Oreos.
That many, huh?
Well, at least.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. Call a friend. Have a friend come sit with you for coffee. You need to feed your soul as well. And also, what I discovered is that when Joe needed something done, I had to recognize when it needed to be done ASAP. And when it was just a matter of pick up a piece of paper for him, and it could wait if I was drinking my coffee.
Yeah. That's important. Now, you talk
Yeah.
about the abilities that you don't have and the abilities you have. What about the abilities that you don't realize you have, but you do have deep down, and they just need to be developed or discovered? How do you discover abilities you don't know you have?
Give it a shot. Rather than just saying, I can't.
So you just have to have a desire
A
to, well,
desire,
let me
a
try this, and
new
maybe I can
desire,
do it, maybe I
make,
can't.
no, not me, maybe I can. Like, I can do this. I can do this. And then when you find that you can open the top of the jelly jar, you'll say, I can't do this. But until
I
you
guess I was
try,
wrong.
you need to have faith in yourself. There's this wonderful quote, I will get it, I will not get it right. It will be paraphrased. Christopher Robin said this to Winnie the Pooh. Always remember, you are stronger than you think, you are smarter than you think, you are something or other than you think. But we all have, what he's saying basically is we have abilities that we never thought we had, that only because we haven't used them and haven't needed to use them.
Now let's talk about, that's profound, by the way.
Oh,
Winnie Winnie the Pooh. Who'd ever would have thought?
hey, can I have, yeah, yeah. No, really, it's a beautiful quote. I wish I remembered it, really.
Uh,
Google it. It's
those,
great.
I will. Those hidden cracks in relationships. Talk about that.
Mm.
Surprising ways people respond or don't
Oh,
when you're experiencing tragedy. How do you help them?
I heard that and read that now on caregiver sites so often. The people who disappear from your life,
Oh,
the people who you expected to be there to help, who just, they're gone.
I know.
The people who come up to you and say something that you interpret as very stupid, they don't wake up in the morning and say, oh, I'm going to go to CJ and say something very stupid. They're doing the best they can. The
Yep.
people who don't say anything at all. The people who see you 3 months later and say, oh, I really wanted to help, but I didn't know what to do. People, we are human. We are human with our own conditions, our own frailties, our own needs, our own lives. Things that might be going on in our lives that you don't know about. We can only do the best we can do. My desire is to not harbor anger. My desire, CJ, is to say they're doing the best they can.
Awesome.
And drop the anger.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You're such a great guest. I'm learning so much here, and I thought I knew a lot.
Uh-huh.
Magical thinking. What the heck is that?
Yes, magical thinking. You, during the time that Joe was hospitalized, and I've said before, we were not sure he was going to live. During that year, 2016, seven close friends and family members passed away. 7. And so I would look at Joe and I would start thinking, what will I do if he dies? How will I continue? I'm fortunate. I have a very close family. We have a blended family of kids and grandkids that you wouldn't believe it if I wrote it in a book. They're so good. And family members and siblings and cousins and friends. When you get this old, you've made a lot of good friends, if you're lucky. But my thinking would take me to that dark place. And it upset me because it made me believe that thinking it would make it happen. That's magical thinking. Snapping your fingers to keep the elephants away, that's magical thinking. The elephants might not appear, but snapping your fingers didn't do it. We are not going to, pardon?
How does this have to do with faking it till you make it, for example?
That's different. Fake it till you make it. That's on you. That almost is like, learn how to use a feeding tube. Fake it till you make it. Pour ginger ale in and then realize, no, you have to pour the scoop in. Now, the magical thinking is different. It's assuming that your head, your mind, your thinking can create a reality.
Which it can.
We're not that strong. We're not that strong. We can't do that. Are working towards something. If I was working towards becoming a widow, that's a different thing, which of course I wasn't. I was working towards becoming a better, stronger caregiver. My thinking was almost nightmarish. And am I making the difference there more clear?
Yeah.
So I shared one day this magical thinking with my daughter, and she said, "Oh God," she said, "I've been doing the same thing." Because you do. Your mind goes to all kinds of places.
Wow. Well, we do have much to be thankful for, don't we? I mean, we can concentrate on everything that's wrong, but there's so much that's right, and that we have to be thankful.
Bingo.
Like I think of the man who didn't have shoes, and he was feeling sorry for himself till he met a man who didn't have feet, and he was feeling sorry till he met a man who didn't have legs, and so on and so on.
And we're all mired in our own special pain, and we can't negate that. The man who doesn't have shoes really has a reason to be sad, has a reason to be frustrated, even if he is comparing himself to the man with no feet, because that comparison will say, well, it could have been worse, but it's still your pain, and it's still your problem, and you still need to not negate it, but as they say, deal with it.
What techniques do you have to find the positive in negative things?
Oh, I do use the Tao. It's not that I go up on a mountaintop and meditate, but I do recognize that things are going to happen. The Tao in Zuran says things are happening. Wu Wei says you can't make them unhappen. In Tao of the Defiant Woman, defiant, I defy negativity. I defy self-limiting behaviors. I defy harmful stereotypes. At this ripe old age of 73, I walk around with the red streaks in my hair. Because this is who I am. I am my being, my person. And the age creeps in because of I understand the new knee thing. I choose to be positive. It doesn't mean it always happens. When my book, One Petal at a Time, was first released about two and a half months ago, and it didn't become a New York Times bestseller right off the top, I was frustrated like no end, and I was unhappy, and I was even to the point of angry at some points. And then common sense took over, because that frustration isn't going to help. It's not going to get you anywhere with anything.
Yeah. I like that term, new normal.
Oh,
you know, because here I am living my life with a wife who is not the way she was, and I can concentrate. A lot of people feel sorry for me. Oh, that poor guy, his wife can't talk, she can't walk, and who knows what else she can't do, and I just look at it. What problems? This is my new normal. We're fine. We still laugh. We still do everything we did before, almost. But things change. And so, how do you handle new normals? You got a formula?
As you're saying, you do things together. You're going to go to New York together. You're going to show. She's gorgeous. Joe and I do things together. He's busy planning all kinds of trips and going here and there. Not necessarily that I want to. Oh, maybe he'll be watching this. But I want to because I want to do things that excite him. And he wants to do things that excite me. And we are still a couple.
That's important.
I need to share, without using names, that on one of the caregiver sites that I watch and sometimes comment on, there is a woman whose husband suffered a heart attack. He was dead for an hour. They brought him back. And who they brought back was an infant. Truly an infant. And her comment was, God took her husband, but brought her a 6-foot-tall infant to care for.
Yes.
That's facing a new normal. That is such an extreme that when I heard that just, that just hit me like crazy.
Yeah, that's a new normal.
Yeah. But
I know
it becomes normal. Everything we do in life is a new normal.
Yeah.
I had back surgery. I now have a brace on my left leg. It's my new normal. It is what it is.
Yeah, and I know who you're talking about. And he recently died.
Yes.
And now she's facing another new normal.
Yes.
A bittersweet, but
yes.
It'll be good for her because she's free now. She had so many burdens, so many responsibilities,
Yes.
and it was taking its toll on her. She actually developed a brain tumor.
Did
You know,
she?
60% of caregivers become sicker than the ones they're caring for,
Yes.
and 30% die, so the 60% are the lucky ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she's working on it, and she's in a good place, and it's a new normal, and it's, the sun will come out tomorrow. Bet your
Yeah.
bottom dollar that
That
tomorrow
tomorrow there'll
will.
be sun.
We just sing the rest of the. You said you couldn't sing.
Well, we'll do that. Wait, I'll get my banjo and guitar. But that's something else too, by the way. If you're stuck in the house, and remember I said, do yoga or whatever, learn something.
Yep,
Look,
something new.
learn something. I learned to play the
I'm
guitar.
I'm picking the piano up again. I haven't done it since I was 12, and I've learned 3 new songs.
Whoa.
I'm
Oh,
impressing people. I'm impressing myself.
we got a gig together. I'll have to come to New York. I'm not far from the city. And we'll have,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Well, Adrian and I were going to hook up. Maybe we can all hook up together.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I
What,
love
you
it.
live in Manhattan?
No, well, I'm in Connecticut.
Oh, how far a drive is that?
An hour and a half.
That's a commitment.
Not really.
Listen, let's take another break. They just kind
Okay.
of creep up on us, don't they? So don't go away. We will be right back. Anytime we suffer loss, we grieve. And a lot of people don't realize what even the grief process is. But it could be 5 to 7 steps ranging from denial, I don't believe this is happening, anger, oh my gosh, I'm so upset this is happening, to a form of bargaining, how can I get out of this, to depression, which is a very serious thing because that often leads to suicide. And then finally, after you realize you have no more control over your situation, and you're totally okay with the new normal that it brings, that wonderful, wonderful place called acceptance.
Being a caregiver takes a special person with passion and compassion. But even you can become a little burned out from time to time. The Caregiver's Caregiver radio show was developed to help you overcome obstacles, adversity, and burnout, as well as just having a place to rest, relax, and recharge your batteries. We've all been there, and you're not alone. Now, you can take the Caregiver's Caregiver with you. Get the top 25 radio shows in convenient form that plugs right into your USB car stereo or computer. Learn the techniques, tips, and encouragement we all need to better handle the day-to-day challenges. For around $1 per show, just $29.77, get the credit card-sized USB card to have with you anytime you need a caregiver's pick-me-up. Just go to DaveTheCaregiversCaregiver.com and order yours today. Go to DaveTheCaregiversCaregiver.com now. Consider it an investment in you, and ultimately, an investment in them.
And we're back with CJ Golden and me, Dave Nassaney. We're talking about caregivers and how to survive this thing called caregiving. So let's talk about your book and the one petal at a time thing and the steps to go through debilitating illnesses, recovery process. I mean, how big is the book? How many pages? How many chapters?
It's I don't know that other than ameliorate. I don't know many long words. It's maybe 150 pages. The
Okay, so
book,
there's a lot in there.
well, the book, the meat of the book is the emails that I sent out to family members and friends to keep them updated on a daily basis. Now
They're actually in there. You wrote.
they're in. That is how I share
Wow.
Joe's story. It's immediate. It's filled with the honesty of my feelings. Prior to each group of emails, I've highlighted something that Joe had done on his bicycle, one pedal at a time, just the year before.
What is that?
And then we had the emails of 2016. And then I followed up with the blogs that I had been writing, because that helped me. They were being published on the Life Planning Network, and it helped me understand maybe what was happening. It helped me understand what I didn't understand. It helped me get through. That's the meat of the book. That's how people read the journal, the memoir of Joe Golden, patient, C.J. Golden, his caregiver. And it's bookended with the chapters of part 1 and chapters of part 3 with who we are, who we were then, what our relationship is, how we blend, how we meld, why we are a loving couple, and at the end, who we are now. And we're the same people.
You know, I didn't prepare you for this.
It's a little different.
I didn't prepare you for this, but I wondered if you'd be so kind as to read, you know, a paragraph or two of maybe the most impactful part of the book. I understand if you need to like gather your thoughts and say, oh, what part would that be?
Well, I need
Do you have it there in front of you?
No, I need to gather the book, but I can. If you will sing to everyone, I will be back in another second.
Have your favorite paragraph somewhere, or just say, oh, I just love that?
Yeah. Well, I'm a writer. I love every paragraph.
How many books did you write?
Pardon?
Is this your first?
No. This is 4.
Wow.
The first one being Tao the Defiant Woman. The second book being Tao Girls Rule. And then there was a book in there about a gentleman that I had met who had a near-death experience. Well, this is more than a paragraph. May I?
Yeah.
Don't bemoan the adventures in which you might no longer be able to engage. Instead, be thankful they were once yours to enjoy. And now I'm facing a time of uncertainty as Joe continues to gain in strength and ability. My future is not as well defined as I once believed it to be. I now know I can take nothing for granted, not personally nor globally. I too need to keep my balance, as Joe does. I need to work through the trepidation and remain determined that the future will be all right, as long as I remain confident and strong in body and spirit. We all do. Joe and I must hold on to the lessons we've learned as he continues to regain his former abilities. That lesson is we are not alone in this uncertain world, and we need to find others who will support us in our aspirations and endeavors. They are there for us as we are there for them. Let the trepidation that threatens to hold us back from achieving our desires be overshadowed by the knowledge that we all have each other's backs. Remain determined to continue to work together towards our collective and personal goals. And let's keep our confidence and equilibrium intact.
You're a good writer. That was gripping.
Thank you. And it's interesting because as I was writing the book, there might very well have been other chapters and phrases and portions that would have been more meaningful. But now that I'm at this point, and now that I know Joe is okay, and now that I'm starting to become less hysterical, and vigilance rather than hysteria, and now that life is back to normal. Normal is whatever life is at the time. And now that I'm taking what I've learned and sharing it with others, that which I just read is very important to me, to keep my balance and to keep strong.
So explain the journey of what you do now in sharing and helping other caregivers. How did that start, and what did it evolve into?
It started, obviously, with the book. It started before the book. It started when people were reading my blogs, and they said, this is going to help others, turn this into a book. I didn't know there was going to be another book, and there it was. That's how it started. And I recognized that I was able, my words, my Joe's and my adventure, if I brought it forward with his permission, if I brought it out to the world, I was telling a story that could help others. I'm not telling a story that is different than anyone else's. Mine is personal. And as I started being asked to speak to groups, tomorrow night I'll be speaking to a cancer caregiver support group. And my first thought is, oh my God, what can I tell them that they don't already know? They don't know my story. They don't know how I dealt with and handled my story. They don't know my positive attitude. And that's what I'm starting to bring. And all of a sudden, this is morphed. And I'm not just talking to girls, and I'm not talking to women about acceptance. I'm talking to all caregivers about acceptance and moving forward. It's just me, what I know and what I can share.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you do have a great attitude, and hopefully attitudes are contagious. Because we know negative attitudes are contagious. You know, the Debbie Downer syndrome.
Oh my God. Yes.
But so is the opposite.
Yes, I do believe it is. I do believe it is. Sometimes I just had to answer a questionnaire, a review that was being done of the book, and there was a questionnaire attached. And what can I do? What do I personally do to make sure that people retain my message?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't. I mean, how can I? I can hope for the best.
Yeah.
They can call me or email me or whatever, but I can't keep going back and pounding people on the head. I have to hope that there's a group of people together who hear my words, who find something positive in them, and then cheer each other on.
How long have you been blogging, and how often do you blog?
Less often now. I blog now for a site for women over 40. It's at 45. That's my women's stuff. I blog for several caregiving sites. I blog for Adrian's site. I don't have quite as much time to write now as I wanted. It's more the speaking.
How many speaking gigs have you been on so far?
With this book, all of a sudden I have 7 or 8 lined up. Some in. I was just given. They called me. And it's an award for the Family Caregiver of the Year.
Wow.
I'm one of 5. One of the websites, and so the conference is in Chicago. So now all of a sudden I have a gig set up in Chicago.
Denise Brown, did you win that, or
Denise,
are you a candidate?
Yes, it's Denise. I'm one of the 5.
You won. Congratulations! Yes. I saw the ballot.
Yeah. So there. Everybody is so worthy, and Joe is the one who nominated me. So when I'm out there with Denise,
are you going to Chicago?
I'm going to go, yes, but I also have a sister-in-law in Chicago who is contacting her local synagogue, big synagogue, lots of people, to set up a speaking engagement for me.
Awesome.
I'm speaking at Spalding Rehab Center, where Joe did his rehab in Boston. I will be speaking in the fall, most likely at Danbury Hospital, where Joe had one of his hospitalizations. All of a sudden, people are finding me.
So, did you say your book is a New York Times bestseller? Is that what
No.
I thought I heard you say.
We're going to work on that, aren't we, Dave?
Yes, me too.
No. There we go. No.
But it must be an Amazon bestseller, I would think.
It's doing well on Amazon. It's Barnes and Noble. It's also because Ingram has it. Any brick and mortar. If somebody dislikes going into to Amazon, they can go to a brick and mortar bookstore and order it.
Have you done any book signings yet?
I have one coming up. I did a book signing at the book launch here in my hometown, but I kind of avoided the book signings this time. I've done them in the past, and there are times when I feel like a rock star. And times when I'm sorry I didn't bring solitaire. And I feel so sorry for the people who walk into the bookstores who try to avoid the authors sitting over there. No, I've not. I've avoided the book signings.
You might consider doing one in Chicago. It's a busy town, and then
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
October is Caregiver Month, Family Caregiver Month,
It's exactly.
and you're the number one caregiver in the world, probably, or the
Well,
country somewhere.
wait a minute. Can I just add this? Because in
Yes.
January I did a virtual global summit. I
Oh
was
my.
one of, it's Age Without Borders. I was one of 50 or 55 participants from around the world
So how do these people
who
find
spoke.
you?
Well, this is actually the person who found me is Bruce, who was publishing my blogs on the LPN site, and he introduced me. That was Bruce Frankel introduced me to Carrie Handley, who produced this summit. And all of a sudden now they're calling me a luminary, an
A
international
luminary.
luminary. You like that? Is
That's
that
that's
great?
a that's a good word.
Yeah.
That means you kind of glow.
I
You're
can, well,
luminous.
I accept it only because if I can bring light to others, that's fine.
Yeah.
At the book launch, my husband got up and introduced me as an international luminary, and I went,
Well, I'm a sailor, and every now and then, parts of the year, there are luminous things in the water
mm-hmm,
from fish, and the water will glow in the dark with this
yes,
luminous turquoise color, and it's beautiful. You'll be out there in the ocean in the middle of the night, darkness, no moon, and your wake is just bright turquoise with luminous, and that's kind of what you are. You're a glowing, luminous light.
thank you. That's because of the red.
I'm just
Thank you.
defining your word, the illuminary.
Okay.
As long as you're not the Illuminati.
No, oh God.
So what else can we talk about?
What else
We've
can we
got,
talk about?
we're almost
Um,
done. Oh no, we're done. So
huh,
why don't you tell everybody, time flies when you're having fun. Why don't you
yeah.
tell everybody how they can get a hold of you, how they can buy their book, how they can go to your website, read your blogs, do whatever, call you on the phone if you want, or email you, just whatever you want to say.
I'd love to hear from people. It's interesting that I heard from a woman 2 days ago who read my women's book. And that's been on the market forever. And I got this glowing, wonderful email. That's the best, folks. The book is
Glowing.
one, it really was, one petal at a time. A novice caregiver and her cyclist husband face their new normal with courage, tenacity, and abundant love. That book
Mm.
is available on Amazon, in Kindle, and trade paperback. It's
Mm-hmm.
available on barnesandnoble.com. It's available on book, most of the online bookstores,
Just say
probably
it's
all of them.
available
It's
everywhere.
available everywhere.
That's right.
My website is CJ Golden, GOLDEN.com, CJGolden.com. Go to that site, go to that home landing page. You'll find out about my women's work and girls' work also,
Mm.
but that will give you the link to Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And email me at, what did I just had to change it, CJAuthor, AUTHOR, at earthlink.net.
Yeah, you should get that CJ at cjgolan.com or something like that. That'd be a
I
cool
had
email.
that. That's the
Um,
one I had through my web server, and
you don't like to use the server.
well,
Got to get used to it. It's a learning curve.
no, it didn't. It didn't like most of the emails that I wanted to send out.
Okay. Well, thank you again. You are a great guest, and I would love to invite you to be a guest host with me sometime
I would
when
love.
Adrian can't make it. I think you'd be a delightful co-host with me as well. So if you're open to that, I'll call you anytime.
I am so
It's
open
kind
to
of
that.
last minute. Of course, I noticed we had some technical difficulties when we started, and you did very well under stress and pressure. So I like that. You can relax now. Okay. So thanks again, and we'll see
Thank you.
everybody next Wednesday at noon. And goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver radio show. Make sure you tune in every Wednesday at noon Pacific Time and anytime afterwards on podcast to catch more of Dave and his tips to caregivers on avoiding burnout and surviving the grief process right here on the Worldwide Block Talk Radio Network. Goodbye.